Hi, it's Dr. Jan with some wise words to work with. And today we're going to talk about zero tolerance policies and if they're a good idea to stop workplace bullying. We're going to talk about what they are, why people tend to like zero tolerance policies, why maybe they're not the best solution, and what should you do in lieu of a zero tolerance policy to effectively manage and get rid of workplace bullying. So let's start off with what zero tolerance policies are. Okay, zero tolerance policies I'm going to talk specifically about workplace bullying. So zero tolerance policies for workplace bullying are those policies that say if you engage in workplace bullying, then we basically fire you and get rid of you. We have zero tolerance for any sort of bullying behavior. Okay. And the reason people like those and people are very attracted to the idea of a zero tolerance policy because it's an effective way, they think, to get rid of workplace bullying. So you get rid of the person who's engaging in the bullying, you get rid of workplace bullying. So lots of people like it. I did a small poll on LinkedIn. I didn't have that many participants, and that's fine. But 100% of those people who responded said yes, zero tolerance policies are an effective way to manage workplace bullying. And again, the reason people like them is because they think if you get rid of the person engaging in bullying behavior, you get rid of workplace bullying. Okay. And I totally and 100% understand that. Okay. But zero tolerance policies are not effective. Okay. I am not a fan of zero tolerance policies, and I'm going to tell you why that is. I'm not a fan of zero tolerance policies because they don't work and they're not effective. Okay. Essentially, a zero tolerance policy is the idea that workplace bullying is a you problem, not a we problem. So workplace bullying is much more complex than a you problem. It's really a we problem. It's an organizational problem, meaning that bully culture, again, is infected and has plagued the organizational norms and values and behaviors and expectations. So when you have bully culture, you have professional standards that are bullying, okay, that people are engaged in bullying behavior, not just the bully, okay? The bully is your primary role model who sets the standard for workplace bullying, but they're not the only one that is involved in it. And so just getting rid of somebody, let's say you do get rid of the bully, okay? Let's say that policy actually has gotten and pinpointed and you have fired the bully, okay? They're ineffective because it's not a bully problem, it's an organizational problem. So even though that bully is fired and has left the building, so to speak, you still have an organizational problem with norms and values that expect, encourage, and support workplace bullying. So you still have people in your organization that engage in bullying behavior, bystanders who engage in bullying behavior and support the bully. Okay. And so what happens when a bully leaves the environment, bully culture dictates that somebody will come in and be socialized into that role. So there's just role shifts. Okay, because it's not an individual bully problem, it's an organizational culture problem. So you're not getting rid of the problem of bullying because the norms and values of your organization, if you have bully culture or workplace bullying, okay, will dictate that somebody else comes in and is socialized into that. So you might even have a bystander who's been partnering and working with the bully, feeding them information, participating in workplace bullying, but they weren't the primary aggressor. Oftentimes that person will take over the role of the primary bully. Okay, so you're not getting rid of the bullying culture. You're just getting rid of somebody who has been engaged in bullying. Somebody else will fill that role. Okay. Here's the other reason that it's a problem, these zero tolerance policies, because if you look again, if we go back to the culture of bullying, okay, oftentimes what happens is you have almost everybody in that organization at some point has engaged in bullying because that has become the norm, the standard, and the expectation. Okay, meaning everybody's doing it. Okay, and it's always geared at a few people, the targets in your work environment. Okay, and sometimes even targets engaged in bad behavior in response to the abuse that they're experiencing. So it's different than me going after you because I'm the bully from you responding to my bullying behavior. It can still be unprofessional and bad. But what happens in bully culture, and this is again why zero tolerance policies are ineffective, what happens is oftentimes you have a double standard and targets will be the ones who get fired because their behavior, okay, if they engage or try to defend themselves and they send an inappropriate email or whatever it is that they're doing, okay, the narrative around their behavior is often the one that is supported by the majority of the people in your organization. So more people will go and badmouth the target and what they're doing, even though it's not the same as the aggressor. And people will lie about what the bully is doing in order to stay out of the crosshairs of the bully. But the narrative around the target often is a false narrative based on bullying. And what that means is that more people oftentimes believe that the target is the problem when in fact it's a bully. And so zero tolerance policies can backfire and often do, and you actually get rid of the person that you want to keep. And the bully is protected by their own bullying and groupthink in your organization. And so that's why they just are not effective, okay? Because bullying is not a you problem, it's a we problem, okay? So what do you do in lieu of a zero tolerance policy? Let me just rewind for 1 second. Is the other reason that we like the idea of zero tolerance policies is because a board of directors, people, supervisors and leaders can jump on board with that because it seems like such a great idea that we're addressing workplace bullying because we have this zero tolerance policy, when in fact zero tolerance policies often make it worse, okay? And they're very ineffective. So again, to really effectively address workplace bullying, you have to come from a wellness perspective, or what I call as a wellness framework, meaning you have to have standards of behavior, okay? And I've talked about this. I know I seem like a broken record, but you have to have, again, an idea of what people should be doing. You have to communicate that to people, and then you have to help people develop and build the skills so that they can meet those professional standards. And I've also said this before too, conflict. If you look at conflict resolution in an organization, people have to be able to have difficult conversations with one another. And it's not just about conflict. It's about when you work I'm a social worker. Okay. You have to have difficult conversations with people. You have to be able to effectively communicate what you are trying to say. People have to have good empathetic and active listening, and not everybody does, okay? Some of the people that I know that are social workers are terrible communicators, they're terrible listeners, and they don't know how to resolve conflict, okay? But those are necessities in an organization, so you have to help people develop those skills, okay? And it's not an excuse to say, I just don't like conflict. I don't care. You have to have certain skills to be an effective professional in a working world, especially depending on your field of study. Like social work, you're going to have difficult conversations. So you have to teach people those skills. So having professional standards, making sure people know what those are, and also that they meet those skills by training and education, all of those things are important. And the other thing is that you need to revisit those skills as your workforce changes, as people come in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you also have to make your work environment friendly, and you have to make your work environment friendly for reporting bad behaviors, okay? And you have to hold people accountable. I think the biggest things to stopping workplace bullying is having standards that people meet, that you revisit them frequently to make sure that people are meeting those standards, providing them with a good, solid foundation of interpersonal skills, communication skills, and etc. And also, you have to hold people accountable to those standards. If you don't have accountability in your organization, then what's the point of having standards? Okay. And when it comes to standards and holding people accountable, if people miss the mark, okay, then not a zero tolerance policy, what happens is you're just taking that bad problem and you're throwing it somewhere else, right? You're just passing it along. If you hold people accountable and you have professional development, you're helping them grow. So you give them a chance to succeed, okay? And you support that success, and people have the right to fail, okay? You give them some opportunities to do both of those things, succeed and fail, and that is a more supportive environment. You also have to be able to allow people to report, and you have to be able to take those issues seriously, okay? And so that's more of a wellness framework where we're looking at how to set the standard, how can we make sure people meet the standard, and if they don't, how can we support them, and how can we have assessment in our organization to make sure that we're meeting the standards and revamping those if we need to, because standards aren't stagnant, right? They change and they need to be revisited. And the other thing too is you protect people when they report, and you take any sort of complaint about harassment, discrimination, bullying seriously, and you hold people accountable. And that is a better way to deal with workplace bullying, because it gets to the foundation of the problem, which is not a person, it's your organizational culture. And that is how, when organizations start implementing a workplace wellness framework, not only can they get rid of workplace bullying, but they can prevent it from happening. Thank you so much. I would love to hear your comments. I'd be really interested to know if your workplace has a zero tolerance policy. You can always email me at jan@stopbullyculture.com. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time.